Hello and welcome to the IRN-CRU podcast, the American football podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. This is the Reaction Crew, and I'm your host, Keith McGinty. There have been some seismic contract moves in the world of NFL, and the crew have assembled to talk over what this means for the rest of the league. To do so, I'm joined by some of the finest crew members. First up, we've got Cowboys fan Dan. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm good. I want paid, Keith. I'm not getting paid enough. I want some guaranteed money for being on this podcast.
I think what we'll do is we'll do it like the Saints and just like kick it on into a couple of years down the line. We'll just move it on a wee bit there. We're also joined by our North American correspondent and Bengals fan, Stu. Stu, how are we?
I'm doing not too bad. Yourself, Keith?
Oh, good. Oh, good. I hope you're staying safe with those forest fires up in Canada.
Yeah. We've had a lot of rain the last couple of days, which I'm hoping is helping out. Like they need the rain a bit further west than where I am. Jasper, if you guys have heard of it, it's not been as bad as it first feared because I think they're saying like they've lost around 30% of the town, so it's still a massive
historic.
And everyone's had to kind of flee everyone in town's had to flee their homes. So hopefully they're all okay. Jasper means a lot to like myself and Pamela because that's actually where we got married. When we came over, we try and go there like as often as we can as well. Just it's a beautiful part of the world. So hopefully everybody's safe and doing okay. But the evacuation seemed to go well, and that's the main thing. Now it's the picking up the pieces.
Well, speaking of picking up the pieces, we will be looking over the bones and picking up the pieces of what's been happening in the NFL in the past, 48 hours. It was announced that there'd been some massive deals. We'd kind of been expecting them. We knew they were coming, but some of them are quite surprising. We're going to start with Tua's deal with the Miami Dolphins. We'll then talk about Jordan Love's deal with the Green Bay Packers, explore the other deals of the summer. Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, even Baker Mayfield got a deal. And then we'll have a wee mull over who's still to get paid and what we think these deals will actually, how they can affect the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. And looking ahead to Brock Purdy in 2025, and maybe even if he keeps going with the fantastic performances that he was doing last season, CJ Stroud, would he be aiming for somewhere up the top ends of the QB ratings there? So that's what we're going to cover this evening. We'll start with Tua then. It was announced last night. Tua was getting a 4-year deal, $212.4 million. So that's an average of $43.1 million. It was noticeable that it was the 0.1 more than Jared Goff. So they can kind of see where they're kind of aiming them for and keeping them in the line with the other QBs. 167.1 of that is guaranteed. That's not bad going, isn't it, Dan? That's a good start for Tua for the training camp week.
Yeah, I mean, we'll discuss that different quarterbacks as we go along, but Tua is one of those quarterbacks. The numbers do seem massive. Where it puts him now as 4th highest per year, which is it that bracket? The problem is now that for the going rate for a quarterback now is getting ridiculous, and that's something we'll discuss as we go through this tonight. But when the market was set by Jared Goff and then the Trevor Lawrence numbers and stuff, for someone who has to an extent proved that he can do it. Obviously, his injuries and that have kind of laid him back a wee bit, but Tua has showed that he is more than your average NFL quarterback. So his numbers probably aren't as surprising as others maybe were. Trevor Lawrence as an example of that, and but yeah, I mean, I think the Dolphins know that Tua is the future for them. They invested in a lot to get him in the first place, so I'm not surprised by that deal.
You went silent.
We can't hear you, Keith.
Sorry, I have that a rookie mistake there. I'll not be getting my full guaranteed deal. I'll tell you that. Stu, what does that say about how much the Miami Dolphins have faith in Tua and what he's done so far with them and making them one of the most frightening offenses in the league, and what it means in the years to come?
I mean, I think obviously like one of the big concerns with Tua when he immediately upon draft, and then as we saw kind of transpire in his early kind of years of his career, injuries were the thing that people kind of worried about. And I think that following last year, with the whole doing the extra work on the neck strength and everything, and to try and help with those, the potential for those frightening concussions, because we all remember a couple of years ago when he was lying on the field and there was the Fencers response going on, and he just looked ropey. And then when he came back, too quickly as well after that, they were claiming the next injury, nothing to do with what happened before, even though it looked like his legs were gone from under him. So I think that it definitely shows they've got that faith that, as well as, his play was never in question. It was more that, his ability to be resilient and actually stand up and make plays. And now I think, after last year, I think we can all agree that Tua looked a lot better. And, like we say, the passing ability was always there. And with the weapons that Miami have, you should definitely be competing for a long time. And Tua's, for me, was the guy to do it. And I don't know why they would even move on from him. So, yeah, I like the contract and I like the deal for both sides.
I'll tell you somebody who should be getting a cut of that deal that Tua's got. Dan is his judo instructor from last summer. As Stu mentioned, there's a lot of strengthening work on the neck, but that was a big thing, wasn't it? He took up judo to learn how to fall correctly.
Yeah, I think it was judo and the jiu-jitsu was the other thing, I think, as well, with two of them.
Yeah.
I think they don't speak to some WWE wrestlers as well. Sometimes they like to spend time at the performance center about learning how to fall and stuff. I'm pretty sure he did that as well. So, that shows you a player that is willing to go and off his own back and do things that he knows that are going to make him a better player. Obviously, in terms of his actual injury, as Stu mentioned, there was a couple of scary moments when he knew that if he didn't go out and do that work, his career was probably one more concussion away from being over already. So he, of his own back, decided, I need to go and do something about this. I mean, to go and learn judo, jiu-jitsu, and go speak to WWE wrestlers about how to fall and how to protect yourself, that shows the commitment he's got. So the Dolphins are, well, we know the commitment he's got, so we know he's his quarterback. He's going to be our quarterback going forward. A point that Stu made about moving on from Tua, question I've asked for a few of these deals this summer is, who is there out there to replace them? If Tua was to move on from the Dolphins, who else is there to step in there? And I think that's a lot of teams have found this year. The depth at quarterback isn't there at the moment in terms of who's available. So, again, Trevor Lawrence, I've mentioned it again, but if the Jaguars moved on for Trevor Lawrence, who realistically could come in and be their QB1? There isn't a lot of options at the moment, which is why I think a lot of QBs are getting paid this summer, because there is nobody else.
The other thing that people have to take into consideration is how it looks monumental. The numbers that are going up, the figures are going up, but the cap space, the salary cap keeps going up as well. And watching Hard Knocks, one of the early episodes on the Giants, Shane mentioned that how surprised they were how much the salary cap had jumped up by. I think it was an extra 20 million that they weren't expecting, which got them all excited about extra players that they could be looking at and focusing and getting involved with their team. This year, the 2024 salary cap is set at 255.4 million. So average tour is going to be 43.1. I'm going to get used to chat for a wee moment while I check and see what the percentage is, but that's something that you really should be thinking about, because we always talk about how the quarterback is the most important position, not just in the NFL, but maybe in all sports. They really should be commanding the highest. They should be commanding the highest salary, because the pressure and the weight and the leadership that is dependent upon them. So, Dan, what do you make of that? How do you think this relates then with how much that the QB should be getting?
Yeah, 100% the QB should be getting the highest salary. I think if you look at someone, we'll go back a bit, Tom Brady, probably the best quarterback ever, right? But did he ever have the biggest salary in the league? No, because he sacrificed his salary because he knew he needed a team round about him. I think to an extent, I know Pat Mahomes' deal was done a couple of years ago, but Pat Mahomes strikes me as the same type of thing. He's took a massive deal, but he's spread it over the 10 years. So he knows that I'm the best player in this team, but I am not who I am without my team round about me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's some of the quarterbacks. I mean, yes, give me the money, I'm the best player. But the smart ones seem to think, well, yeah, you can pay me all you want, but if I've not got a team round about me, I'm not going to be successful. I mean, coming back to our sport, many players out there basically just want the best salary. Do you know what I mean? So it's not about what's best for the team, it's what's best for them. And I think obviously these guys are young sportsmen, their careers are short, they want to make as much money as possible, but sometimes it's easy to see who wants to make money and who actually wants to be successful, and that's some of these deals maybe show that. Stu, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, like, I mean, that's one thing I can say, and I guess it's almost like a knock against my own team here, because when we're talking percentages, Keith, because I had this ready to go just for this point. Exactly.
Nah, good man.
So you just mentioned Pat Mahomes there, Dan. So when he signed, it was the largest contract at the time. It's still the highest value. So he's going to get 10 years, like very long contract. He's going to get $450 million if he sees out the full term of it. In total, the percentage out of the cap at the time of signing was 22.7%, which is quite a lot, because you're basically almost wrapping up, a quarter of your salary in one player. Granted, it is the most important. If we look at Tua's, who's getting $53.1 million per year, he's only actually getting 20.79%. So even though he's in theory getting $8.1 million more dollars per year, he's actually taking up less of the cap percentage. Mahomes has went down through time. That's also something to note. I'm just saying that, he signed at a higher percentage at the signing day. Joe Burrow, 24.47%, which I believe might be the highest percentage of a cap on the signing day of any player in the league. Kind of thing. Don't know if it's history, but I know that at the time of the recent kind of run of contracts. So Joe Burrow, obviously with the Bengals, we bet on salary cap's going to keep going up, so it's going to become less of a problem as we go through the years. And as we see with this trend in quarterback contracts, it's not going to be long until people are getting more money than Joe Burrow as well. But still, you're right. Like, as soon as you're taking that extra few percentage points, you maybe lose your T. Higgins, or you maybe have to lose one of eventually your Tyreek Hills or your Jalen Waddles or someone, because you can't pay them all.
Well, Tyreek Hill, his 4-year contract has been eclipsed by $120 million he got, including a $25.5 million signing bonus and $72.2 guaranteed for the cheetah there. Do you think that's going to maybe upset him a wee bit? I know he's got a wee bit of an ego, but he seemed to be quite happy for Tua to be getting the deal. He was quite vocal about it. He wanted Tua to get signed, Dan. You think that will upset the locker room at all?
Nah, I don't think so. I think wide receivers and running backs know their position in the team. They know that no matter how good they are, the quarterback is going to be... Well, there's obviously teams across the league, it's not the case, but if you have an elite quarterback in your team, you know he is going to be paid more than you. And I think that's just accepted across the league. I mean, there might be players that are upset if someone of less ability was paid more than him by that amount. But yeah, as I mentioned, the quarterback is the most important player in that team. So wide receivers know that, and I don't think this would be an issue at all. It shouldn't be an issue at all.
That's one thing, Dan, like just because last night I was kind of finishing up receivers finally, and as the season goes on, it's interesting to watch. Like Devontae Adams, who's obviously one of the top wide receivers in the league, like probably for me, he's still in the top 3. Like might even bump Jamar Chase out there. Myself is of him kind of thing, but you see how frustrated Devontae Adams is in a nice way, but how frustrated he gets with the quarterback play compared to what he had when he was with the Green Bay Packers. And he's still who he is, even if he is getting a bit older. But if you don't have that elite guy, or at least a very good guy throwing you the ball, you're not going to get those same yardage. You're not going to get those touchdowns in the red zone, or those red zone plays that he kind of talks about a lot, about how he was the number 1 guy in the red zone for the last 5 years and off it dropped kind of thing. So yeah, as a wide receiver, you can't be mad if your guy's getting paid, because if he's getting paid, it means he's good, and that means you're scoring, and you're going to be able to maybe get some more girlfriends and some more babies out there.
Thing is, wide receivers performance bonuses as well. So if they've got a good quarterback, they're going to get their touchdowns, they're going to get their yards, and that's going to get them paid as well.
They've got to have some hope as well that he's going to take them into the off season, hopefully get a wee run, maybe Super Bowl one day, but we'll wait and see. You're talking about the QBs here, and something that we look over, and maybe it's a wee bit inaccessible to people that are just casually following the NFL, some of the ratings and the acronyms that go along with this. Dan, if you could tell us a wee bit about the QBR, if you could explain to us what it means, how that helps people make decisions on whether a QB is worth the money.
Yeah, I mean, so anybody that's watching, if you even watch NFL casually, QB rating will come up very, very often in commentary, probably several times a game. And basically what QB rating is the way that they rate a quarterback's performance on a game-to-game basis and across a season. So they're marked on 4 points, which is completions, yards, touchdowns, and interceptions. That's the 4 key factors of what comes into a QB rating. Obviously, more touchdowns, more receptions, the more yards you've got, less receptions you've got, your QB rating is going to be higher. And obviously on the flip side, if you're not having a good game, if you throw 4 interceptions, no touchdowns, your QB rating is going to go really low. So it's basically a metric for measuring how good a quarterback is with all the 4 key factors that a quarterback is measured on. Obviously, there's other factors. If you take someone like Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, the amount of rushing yards they do, that's not factored in. It's basically a passer rating. Is kind of the way to look at it. So obviously, as we know in this league, quarterbacks are mainly passing players. So that's kind of what bracket they have used to kind of measure their performance across a game.
What about Stuart, the EPA? If you could explain that to us, please.
Yeah, so EPA is expected points added, which for me, I kind of like thinking of it in terms of expected goals. Because for us, like soccer, football, and also in ice hockey, which is something I watch a lot of, those ones are directly comparable. It's expected goals, and you know what it is from watching football. They talk about it in commentary all the time now, and that new wave of analytics sweeping through sport. If you're seeing someone that's got like a higher expected goal rate, you know that, okay, this is a player who is going to maybe get you more goals in a game, or is creating chances at least that could lead to goals. Expected points added. That's it's actually a funny fact here that I actually just found out whilst I was researching this. It was first introduced in 1970 by Virgil Carter, who was the Bengals starting quarterback in 1970. So there you go. It was a Bengals quarterback that kind of came up with this, along with a mathematician, Robert.
So you should have kept that as a statistic.
Should have kept that. Maybe could have done that for me. I thought it was quite fascinating. But anywho, the point is that basically the expected points added, it's always going to increase the closer you are to the opposition's end zone. So, for instance, if you've got a 1st and 10 on your own 8-yard line, you're going to have a lot less chance to have expected points added than you would if you're 1st and 10 on the 50-yard line or the halfway line. Essentially, the same as like if you're 3rd and 4 on the 20-yard line, you're going to still have a higher, or in your opposition 20-yard line, you're still going to have a higher chance of scoring than 1st and 10 on your own 8-yard line as well. But anywho, what's kind of happened through time though is we've kind of moved to a new format of it that's less simple than this. It's the adjusted EPA. And what that does is it takes into account things like drops by receivers. Because what was happening before with old EPA is it kind of punishes quarterbacks quite a bit, or maybe kind of more unfair.
That's not their fault. Yeah, they've put the money on where it should be.
Yeah, so it's like, that time we have to take that into account of like, was it a catchable pass? Was it like going right down into Tony's hands, and then Tony has decided, I'm just not going to hold on to that here. I've got butterfingers at this last crucial moment here, and then you end up seeing things like, and we're segueing with this, by the way, everyone. That was kind of happening here. Then you end up seeing things. Let me see. I'll pull the stat here. So Patrick Mahomes, if you in his QBR rating, which is that like completions part, and this is where it ties into EPA. Yeah, Mahomes ended up 14th in the league last year with a QB rating of 94.1. But if you take into fact adjusted EPA, he actually grades out as 4th in the league because that removes the drops that were not his fault. So he ends up there. Tua, who in QBR rating was 7th with 98.7, which is a great score, he ends up 3rd overall in the league. So then you can see that's why this guy got paid. Kind of thing. He's right up there with some of those other dudes.
You can understand the Dolphins going for that. Mike McDaniel, of course, being a but that's that there himself.
Yeah.
So what about then Jordan Love? We'll move on to him because he was the other big news of the day yesterday. Tua deal had came through. Had really not much time for people to get their heads around it, to digest it before Jordan Love's deal was announced. A 4-year deal, $220 million. Average of 55 million a year, which takes him tied to the top for the average per year with Trevor Lawrence and who's the other one?
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, Joe Burrow, and that's incredible statement by the Packers, because this guy's only had the one full year. He sat 2 years behind Aaron Rodgers.
3 years behind Aaron Rodgers.
3 years, yeah, it was 3 years behind him. So that's his first full year. The 5 years of the rookie contract's been mostly used up, but they have shown faith in him. Why are they showing faith in him? What is his EPA? Why are they thinking this is our guy then, Stu?
I mean, so like when you take into account, so QB rating, like going back to what Dan was looking at before, I think he grades out, and they are as Jordan Love's 11th in the league. Like his score's 97.1, which is definitely nothing to sniff at. But that does place him immediately behind Derek Carr on 97.7, Russell Wilson 98, and Jake Brown in the Bengals backup 98.4. And then Tua is obviously above that. Adjusted EPA, so this is taking the drops into account and thing. He does score a bit better in there. He's 8th in the league and is only just behind Trevor Lawrence in 7th spot, kind of thing. And obviously Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys that got paid as well. So, you know, it's that kind of thing of they've looked at it and went, okay, maybe we're looking at adjusted EPA and decided, well, Trevor Lawrence is worth this. Jordan Love has a better offense. Let's maybe pay him. My only issue with Jordan Love, because like stats-wise, he looks great. This is only looking at last year, though, obviously, kind of thing. So we're basically looking at 1 year's worth of evidence. And that's where I kind of question it a little bit, because I go, okay, well, we've only seen him do this for 1 year. Before that, he was the backup.
Well, it was half a year, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So even the stats for the season, it took a wee while to settle in, but then towards the end of the year, he really was firing all cylinders. Your Cowboys know all about that, Dan.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about when we started talking about this pod earlier on. Like, my question in my head is, if Jordan Love had went to AT&T Stadium and the result had ended up the way it was expected to, there's not a chance he'd be getting paid £55 million a year. He has been paid this amount based on beating the Cowboys in the playoffs. I mean, obviously his performance has been great, but they've looked at that and went, well, he's done that against the Cowboys in the playoffs. He is our future. Just a point, a big stud has jumped in. He's 4 years behind Rodgers.
I'm just going
they reworked his deal, so they're taking up his 5th year option, which would have cost them $20 million. And his 5th year option, they signed him a new deal, which was worth $13.5 million. So he's went from $13.5 million a year last year to $55 million a year going forward. That's huge. I mean, I'm the same as Stu here. I'm like, has he earned $55 million a year? I don't think so. It's based on back end performances last year, getting in the playoffs and having it was a spectacular playoff win they got. But is that one win worth $55 million? I don't think so.
I mean,
so
sorry, you go, Keith.
Yeah, no, just going to say, so Jordan Love, it's a young team that they're building there up in Wisconsin. It's an exciting team. They really do feel like they're at the start of something that could well be the third Hall of Fame quarterback, and that seems to be what they're putting their bets on there for the Packers. Can you see this being is this a reach by the Packers do, or is this a shrewd investment? Because as you say, the salary cap goes up every year. The percentage that this $55 million an average per season will actually be towards the salary cap, that'll be diminished in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, I mean, that's to speak in defence of it. Like personally, I still feel like it's probably 10 million too much. Like I would have thought like somewhere between 45 and 50. If it was 50, I would have been like slightly high, but I get it. Because what we're not seeing is how he was behind the scenes for those 4 years behind Rodgers before he got to be the starter. We saw the odd couple of games that he got let into where he didn't look all that great. But that was at the time when Green Bay were struggling a bit with injuries in the roll line and you kind of get fed to the dogs a little bit. But what we're not seeing is that behind the scenes stuff. So they obviously know what they have in them. And I will also say that for me, we've spoken about this a few times on the podcast, this is probably the best way to develop a quarterback. like if you can afford the time and have them learn from somebody and sit there and take your time, because that's what we used to do back in the day. Whereas now I feel like there's a lot of rookies that are getting burnt out early because they've been thrown straight into the wolves, and you end up they're on the scrap heap 2 years later. And it's like, well, maybe if you'd sat them behind a veteran for a bit and you'd learned dip that jump from the college football like up to the NFL. Always said from the CFL to the NFL, but anyway, Nathan Rourke, who might be the next. But no, like it's just that thing of like I think the right to go with them is just slightly expensive for me. Like I like him as a quarterback though, so we'll see what he does this year, I guess.
Question I want to know is, obviously we all know with contract negotiations, you go in and you highball your team to try and, what did they actually ask for is what I want to know. What has he just fucking in and went, we want 65 million, and the Packers went, no, I'm about 55. I mean, what did they actually ask the Packers for? Because they never asked for 55 million.
Well, one of the interesting facts from yesterday was that that both players are represented by Athletes First. Their agency that went and got this deal. They also represent other players like Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, who's had an incredible deal. There must be some negotiators, these guys. There's another player that we'll get to in a wee bit they also represent, but as you say, Dan, they must be going in there. Aim high. Let's just hit out a ridiculous number, and then we'll work our way down to something happy that both teams are going to be happy with. 55 million a year seems a bit much, especially from the bank of games that we've seen from them. But as you say, it could all be hinging on that playoff win.
Yeah, I think I read that. I don't know how many deals Athletes First have done this year, but quarterback deals this year alone are over $1 billion this year, and just this off season alone, the deals that have been done. I mean, what you want to think is that Tua, now, as you just mentioned, they're represented by the same agent. Tua must be looking at it going, how did you get Jordan Love 55 million? What's that? Why did that be 55 million? Do you know what I mean? And that's these players are going to be looking at. They're like, if you're Tua and you're looking at Jordan Love, you're thinking, I'm worth more than I'm better than him. So why is he getting more? You're my agent, you're his agent. I mean, that's like, we thought that wide receivers don't be happy about it. If you're in the same, I mean, obviously the players will recognise, but if I'm Tua, I know I'm a better player than Jordan Love, so why is he getting paid more than me? That's the question his agents are maybe going to have to answer.
Well, I mean, Dan, that could come back to the whole thing of, if you look at it, he's allowing them or the Dolphins to have a massive extra $1.9 million per year to spend on a punter or something. You know what I mean? He's like, he's looking in there. He's left money on the table so that they could win. That's maybe what's happened there, because Jordan Love's went, I want paid. I jest.
So other deals that have been done this summer, as you said, Trevor Lawrence, 5-year deal, $275 million, an average salary of 55 as well, same as Jordan Love. Jared Goff, of course, he get paid by the Lions, a 4-year deal, $212 million, 53 million at average. I like that Tua just got that 100,000 more just to take him that wee step higher up the ladder there.
Wish it was $1. Imagine he's just like $1 more.
It also had Kirk Cousins signing with the Falcons, a 4-year deal. Not bad for somebody at 35, 180 million and 45 million average. And then Baker, he's come down a couple of tiers there. Baker with the Buccaneers. After a couple of shaky years for him, he's getting a 3-year, $100,000 deal. Works out nicely at $33,333,333. That's nice. I like that. Graphic.
Don't get 33 cents.
Only 15% of the cap as well. So I mean, that's why they were able to hold on to Evans and all those getting paid Evans and keep them in the team. So to be fair to Baker, he had a very good year last year. But the issue with Baker is he seems to be like good year, bad year, good year, bad year. So TBD next season, I guess.
What do you make of those deals then, though? Trevor Lawrence, the 5-year deal for him, is that again just a sign that you're our guy? We are fully committed to you at Jacksonville. Jacksonville are doing lots of interesting things. They're planning building this new stadium. They seem to really be investing in their team and planning for the future there. Is that a shrewd move for them, getting the contract in early, just as we said, with the salary cap no doubt going up over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, but I think we had this discussion off pod a few weeks ago when it was announced. I still think that's an overpay as well. Trevor Lawrence at 55 million, but it comes back to that point I made earlier. If they don't sign Trevor Lawrence at 55 million, who are they going to sign? Do you know what I mean? And this is where the players have got the massive leverage at the moment, because there isn't. I mean, who's the best backup in the league? If you look at them now, there's not a lot of them. Go back maybe 3 or 4 years, you had
Sam Howell.
Exactly. Or Sam Darnold, or even Trey Lance. I mean, and some of them players that are now backups are not proven players. Whereas going back 3 or 4 years, there was a kind of pool of players bouncing about that could be serviceable for you. You've not got that at the moment. So teams are having to pay their quarterbacks. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is clearly going to be the quarterback for the future. And I don't have an issue with that. It's the right decision for the Jaguars. Paying him 55 million a year I think is a reach as well. Like to do, I think he's probably in the 45 to 50 mark. Like to do, say, with Jordan Love. Jordan Love maybe just slightly below Lawrence due to the amount of years. But yeah, I think this is some of these deals. I mean, Jared Goff, 53 million. The Lions are investing in him. But again, he's not. He also put in 1 year last year. He's been done really well. I mean, he's also had success previously at seasons, but it's like the analogy used and go back to our fit games. Like players have a great World Cup, teams spend an absolute fortune on them, and then they're done when they come playing every single week. Do you know what I mean? It's like does one season or one playoff run justify that money? That's the big question, and these teams obviously seem to think it does, but there isn't really many other options out there for them than to pay the quarterback they have in the building already.
That's exactly it. Matthew Said says that, and that's the wrong time to buy players after a World Cup or a Euros when they've done well. One, they'll be knackered from it, and two, you're kind of paying a bit of a premium then as well. To be fair though, for Trevor Lawrence at 55 million, some of that's got to be hush money and reparation for having to put up with Urban Myers for a couple of seasons as well. To be fair. Right, let's move on then. Thinking about the players who have still to get paid. So Dan, I'm going to come to you first. Dak Prescott, represented by Athletes First as well. He must be looking at this going, yeah, absolute dancer. Jerry must be... I don't know how he'll be about this. Do you think he likes to hold off? It says he's the Pat Mahomes of the owners when it comes to making deals with their top QBs. He holds off. He reads the game as best he can. And sometimes he has to make that run to the sideline before making a last-minute decision. Is he going to duck out of this one, take it to the side, or is he going to make that pass to Dak and seal the deal and get him as the top paid QB in the league?
I think now that I learned that Athletes First represent all three of these quarterbacks, I think this has been a bit of clever play by the agents to an extent. They knew that if they could get the Tua deals and they could get that money for Jordan Love on the table, they can get Dak a lot more. And I think this is, whether it's been deliberate or not, but you know how these agents work. If they went to Dak and says, look, we're working on this for Tua, we're working on this for Jordan Love, let them hit the table first, and then we'll get to you, because you can turn around and say, if Jordan Love's getting 55 million a year, I deserve a lot more than that. Where it goes, I think he needs to get paid, and it's not going to be just 100,000 more than Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence are getting. I think that Dak's now going to go to that table and ask for 60, because as Stu mentioned earlier on, Dak is in pretty much every metric in the league as a quarterback in the top three. You know what I mean? So if you're a top three quarterback, you're not going to be asked to get paid the same amount of money as Jordan Love or Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? You're not going to be asking for 2 million more than Jared Goff. You're going to be asking for a significant amount of money. Jerry made a point the other day, though, and he basically said he likes to stir it up. So he basically called himself a shit stirrer. He's like, it's like to stir it up because it keeps us relevant. Do you know what I mean? But something I don't know if you're going to come on to this. The problem the Cowboys have got is Dak is not the only player that needs to get paid. This is the big issue. How much of the salary cap are the Cowboys going to invest in? Arguably 3 players. This is the issue the Cowboys have got at the moment. There's 3 players sitting at that table wanting to be paid. One of them, and Micah Parsons, has already said, look, I want my Cowboys player for life. he's gave the kind of thing. It's just about the numbers, right? So that's fine. CD Lamb, nobody knows where his head's at. Dak Prescott wants to stay, but it's just all about the numbers. Do you know what I mean? So does Dak want to be a team player and take that slightly less to keep Micah Parsons and CD Lamb in the same team? We'll just have to wait and see.
So outside of QBs, the top paid player in the league is Justin Jefferson, all right, with $35 million on average. From what I was hearing, that was what Micah was wanting. He wanted to be the top paid player in the league outside of a QB. Is maybe changed his tune on that? Has he clarified that in the past couple of days?
I was going to say, I know Nick Bosa is sitting on $34 million a year. He's in, if you go in like Sport Track, he's 14th, and he's the top QB listed right now. But yeah, because Jefferson's tied for 22nd somehow. I think it must be, it's rated by value of contract kind of thing.
Yeah. So Nick Bosa's $34 million a year as an edge rusher. Let's put Micah Parsons in as an edge rusher because we know he can play linebacker edge rusher. Next is who was Josh Allen, who is now Joshua Hines Allen. He's at $28.2 million a year. So I think Micah Parsons probably sits in between there. I don't think they can demand Nick Bosa type money yet. But if you're Micah Parsons, you're probably looking at about $30 million a year. I think that's probably a fair ask if you're Micah Parsons. Yes.
Do you want to know or just because I was quickly doing some math there, do you want me to know, or do you want to know my Dak Prescott salary cap hit theory?
Go for it.
So slightly based on what we were talking about there with the, what Trevor Lawrence got, what Jordan Love got, what Tua got, because they're represented by the same person, or those guys are represented by the same person. So currently, Dak, so they both got 21.53% of the salary cap. Dak, in his current deal, which he's signed, he gets $40 million a year. He's signed for 21.92% of the cap, so slightly higher than those two. If Dak does that again, he would get just a tick under 56 million. So I bet we see Dak sign for 56 if he's wanting to win and keep, leave some money there for Parsons, the CD and those guys to get paid as well. So as much as I think Dak is set up because of those consistent years of being a top quarterback in the league by adjusted EPA metrics, where he's always kind of pretty much top 5, the QBR rating, where he's also usually top 5 as well, I think he probably could ask for more. I wonder if he just asks for slightly over because it's still in line with what his agents have been doing.
Yeah.
And it's slightly more than what Jordan Love and that are getting, but it's also the same percentage of the salary cap that he's been getting already.
What I would say then, Stuart, see if it goes for something round about the 56, not that much more extreme than the 55 million that they're getting just now. To me, that's a sign that he thinks that they can win.
Yeah.
If he goes for the 60 million, that to me is that he just wants paid because he knows his value to the team and how much he contributes and just how good he is as a quarterback. And sometimes people do forget that. Not had the best of luck in the postseason, but the guy's good. And I kind of worry what the Cowboys would actually be and maybe not being as relevant as they were in the 90s. It's turning into a bit of a joke figure just now, but without him, it could be a hell of a lot worse. So I think that's what you'd be looking at. If he's going for the 60 million, he wants his value. If he's going for 56, that's team friendly. That's leadership. That's a lot of ring.
Yeah.
I think he's getting more of a percentage than what Jordan Love and what Trevor Lawrence are getting and what Tua is getting. So for him, he would go, okay, I'm still the highest by percentage paid guy in my agency.
Yeah, I don't think Dak is a player. I don't think from watching Hard Knocks, Dak doesn't have an ego. He's not a player that was, I want to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. That's not the type of player. That won't bother him. But looking at when you say the numbers that those players are getting, you think, well, I am better than them. I'm not telling you. By default, I will be the highest paid quarterback in the league because of what they have been paid, not because I am asking to be that highest paid quarterback, if that makes sense. I mean, it just naturally that will be what happened, but he's not the type of player that strikes me as banging down Jerry Jones' door and saying, I want to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. He wants his value, and his value at the moment is number one paid quarterback, just purely by default.
Maybe he does a tour and he just says like, okay, just make me the highest paid quarterback in the league, and then they come back with $55,100,000 just to
I mean, that's
0.1 over.
I mean, I think the point about 56 million. I mean, like, I think, yeah, I mean, it's all about his value, and to us, he is invaluable. Keith, as you said, I don't know where we would be without Dak Prescott. I mean, the moves that have happened this year, like for example, if Dak Prescott was still moved on, I would have been happy picking up something like Kirk Cousins for a couple of years. I mean, there was a couple of players there this year that were available that could have came in for a couple of years and done the job. The problem the Cowboys have got is that even with a serviceable quarterback, we're never going to be, barring a disaster, we're never going to be near that top 5 draft pick to get the next player coming out of college.
Yeah.
Unless we give up an absolute ransom to get into that position. So we need to look at what is in the market at the moment. As I've said, and I keep repeating myself, who would we get to replace Dak Prescott? There is nobody out there to go and get to replace Dak Prescott because he's got 1 year left. We let him walk. We can't tag. He's got no tag causing his contract. He will walk at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? So
no tag and no trade.
Yeah, there's not that much. He holds every single card there is. So if we can't agree a deal, we know that at the end of the season, Dak Prescott is off for absolutely nothing. And there's nobody out there to bring in to replace him because looking at the players that are available next year, there's nobody there of that level. Well, maybe one, but he's not going to leave his team, as we'll come on in a minute. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And for me, if Dak Prescott doesn't sign, Jerry Jones will decide to blow it all up and start again. But to do that, is he going to keep CD Lamb and is he going to keep Micah Parsons? Because if he lets Dak Prescott go, the two of them know they're not a winning team and they're not going to want to sign if they're not a winning team.
Yeah. Would he be able to keep them happy if that was the case? Maybe this was the long play that we were talking about, getting a rookie quarterback in and learning under somebody that's good. And that's why Trey Lance had been learning under Jimmy G. Now he's came over, he's learning under Dak. He's going to be your saviour. You're going for the Packers route in this one, Dan. It'll be nice to see. Speaking of the 49ers, someone who should be looking to get paid next year, especially if they have a year as successful and consistent this year, would be Brock Purdy. And Stu, we know you're a massive fan of Brock Purdy. Should he be getting paid, and what would you be expecting for Purdy and his performances with the 49ers?
See, this is the thing that it's really difficult with Purdy because, like, I am definitely one of the Purdy believers in the, you know, a lot of people talk about the systems quarterback thing and it's seen as a negative. But for Brock Purdy, he just works so well in that Niners system. But he can also make great. It's not just that, oh, he's a systems quarterback, like meaning that in a derogatory way. It's almost, I'm not saying he's as good as Tom Brady, but it's kind of like it's Brady-esque in terms of he works in that system and is able to identify where he should send the ball quite quickly. Like his reads are great. Now, is he as dynamic as like a Mahomes or a Lamar or anyone like that? No, definitely not. It's like he can run a bit, but you know that's not what he's really known for. He's definitely a pass first kind of guy and does best with a clean pocket and stuff. In terms of like how much he should get paid, see, he's another guy. It's kind of like Jordan Love, where I look at him and go, but at least he's got a longer track record and he's done it for further in the playoffs as well. So to me, I'm going like, we should probably get paid more than Jordan Love, is the way I would put it. But I don't think he should get $55 million either. I don't know, maybe more than like say Watson and Cousins, and so more than 45 million, but maybe 50. Like, would that be fair? Would you guys think? Like, I'm on the fence.
Yeah, it's a fair number, but what I'm wondering, obviously, he doesn't seem like a guy to push it. Like, the 2 years that he has had, why has he not been banging the door asking for money already? I mean, I just pulled it up there. It was on 3 million or something like that. Where did they go at it? Yeah.
Plus his performances.
Well, if you're a 7th round pick, Dan, you don't quite get the same salary
structure. Yeah, no, as I'm saying, I'm saying that if you've been and he's had over a couple of years, why is he not banging the door saying, I'm only getting paid £900,000 a year? Why is he waiting until the last year of his contract to then start asking those questions? Because if that's your performances and you can see players getting paid based on average seasons, probably you must be thinking, is he
maybe
waiting?
Is his dad or something like that? Maybe he just seems like a genuinely nice guy as well.
That's what I mean.
So he's
Is he
maybe
going
too nice to get paid. Is that the problem?
I mean, is he going to sit down with the 49ers and go, and they go, we'll give you 40 million a year, and they'll go, thanks very much, when he could easily demand 50. That's the thing.
When you think of the 49ers, though, they've got so many of the players that are the top paid in that position. So maybe just now he's been that team player. A couple of them are getting towards the end of their career, getting that wee bit older, so you could maybe see them getting moved on. Then you know he is going to get paid. He's going to be well looked after. He seems relatively well grounded. Doesn't seem to be... although I think that's the face that show the world. He seems a good wee family guy. I'm not sure that he's going to be chasing the mega riches, but he's had a taste of the Super Bowl. I think for him, the story that it would tell to be Mr. Irrelevant, to go and to get in a ring with the 49ers and Shanahan there, might not just be the one ring that he could get. I think that's the story that he wants to tell. So maybe he's playing the game just now. As you say, Stu, next year should be the year that he should be getting his deal, be getting paid, getting rewarded for.
He doesn't have the fifth year because he's a 7th round pick. He only gets
exactly
the way that works.
Exactly.
Kyle
so yeah, it'll be good to see.
Sorry, I was just saying Kyle Strongen is his agent. It took me a long time to find that. He's from Range Sports. I was just trying to figure out who else do Range Sports represent.
The thing is,
I'm telling something. He'll be looking at the athletes first. If some of the deals that are going just now, he might be having a wee checking his emails to see if he's getting anything from them coming through. Have you picked up who else that they've got? So you can let us know.
I'm just laughing here because like Range Sports, there's an article from last year. So this is from 2020. So when I say last year, I mean not even a year old. Oh no, sorry, it is a year old. It's from May. I'm reading my American and UK dates. But anyway, point is last year, Range Sports has just expanded into the NFL to represent players. So they have Brock Purdy, Alec Ingold, fullback for the Dolphins, and Bills wide receiver Trent Sherfield. So maybe Purdy's not paid because his agent doesn't exactly seem to be quite. No offense to Rage Sports before they come and like kick us in on the podcast here, but they don't. They seem to be more than a Hollywood talent management firm, so they normally deal with actors and directors. So
right,
interesting. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Another one, Dan, that we were talking about off air that should be looking to get paid, especially on performances based, if they can continue the amazing rookie season that he had with CJ Stroud. So is that someone that, can you see him continuing this on? Because the Michael Ryan got the players like just buzzing, and it's kind of like the Lions as well, that where they're riding that high. And if he has another fantastic year like he had last year, he's another one. Him and Purdy will be the big stories of the summer next year, you've got to think.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, CJ Stroud obviously being first round pick, they'll have that. He's a 5th round option, not a 5th year option on him. But he's getting paid $9 million a year now. Just over $9 million, $36 million, $9 million a year. So, I mean, does he do the drop Purdy route and just stick with his rookie deal right all the way through and to try and build the team? Do you know what I mean? I think, but definitely what he's shown in the last year, he could go and bang on the doors around and ask for money, but. Being a rookie, it's maybe one of those unwritten rules that you wait a couple of years and then before you start banging down doors, no matter what your performances are. I mean, for somebody that coming out of college on $10 million a year, he'd probably get more than that in NIL money. But I think, I mean, he'll be the next big one to get paid. I think when after Brock Purdy, there's a kind of drop off in terms of the elite quarterbacks to be paid for a couple of years. You've got people like Daniel Jones, Matt Stafford. Deshaun Watson, people like that, their contracts will be coming up, but you're not going to have any of those elite quarterbacks going to be getting paid for a good few years after Brock Purdy gets paid next year. CJ Stroud will potentially be the next one. Anthony Richards, maybe another one. I've never seen much of him last year because of his injury. Anthony Richards, CJ Stroud, they're going to be that next kind of level of quarterbacks up, and that could be where the market gets blown wide open again when they get to kind of where are we looking at for them too? So 2028, I'm looking at for those two to be that's after the 5th round option. So after next year, you got another 3 years before you probably see any mega deals coming, unless something drastic happens somewhere, like Jordan Love getting paid 55 million a year, or something else appears out of nowhere and gets paid that. I think the mega deals for quarterbacks will maybe calm down a wee bit, unless there's any kind of restructuring like Pat Mahomes asking for more money or something like that. I think CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson will be your next two quarterbacks to get paid.
I think they will. It will be very interesting to see what happens over the year. Next one, though, will be Dak. When do we think that will happen? Just as we're rounding up, when do you think the Dak Prescott will get paid? Stu, I'll come to you first on that one.
I mean, I would kind of like him to be signed before the season starts. Like, I know he still has that year left, Dan, but let's maybe take if I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'm speaking for you here, Dan. If I was a Cowboys fan, I would probably want the uncertainty dealt with, like sooner rather than later, because he's the guy. There's nobody else that you can really grab off a free agency, like you said, that's coming up. And if you want to be going to the draft, like I know there's always like at least one or two good quarterbacks coming through each year. At the same time, it's not this year when we had that whole run in quarterbacks like early, and you're going to have that thing of if Dak's still there this year. I doubt that the Cowboys are picking in the top 10, so they're not going to be able to grab a player or whatever. Then, so for me, I want him signed before this season even starts. But really, that's down to Jerry, because we know Jerry Jones can be a bit of a loose cannon, shall we say, sometimes, or he operates a little bit differently from other owners.
Yeah.
Dan, what about you? Will it be Trey Lance taking the Cowboys into the regular season after a convincing couple of matches before the season starts? What do you think?
No, I think whether Dak signs or not, Dak's going to be QB1 come week 1, number 1. I mean, he's not going to hold out. Do you know what I mean? There's no indication that that's going to be the case. I agree with Stu. The deal needs to be done before the season starts. Because, for example, let's say 2 or 3 games in, Dak gets injured. There's no way to re-sign him. If he's a season-ending injury, they'll then got a big question over, well, man, he's out for the rest of the season. What do we do here? Do you know what I mean? So I think that is the problem, where there's so many moving variables that can happen that either the player or the team can't control, that if something goes wrong and you've not signed him, what's a disaster. Whereas you've signed him, and obviously more for him, if he's signed on, he's got a long-term deal, he's tied in even if he gets injured. But there's quarterbacks out there who, to their teams, are absolutely valuable and viable, and Dak Prescott is one of them. Like you said, Keith, if it's not for Dak Prescott, the Cowboys are nothing going into a season. I mean, if we didn't back Dak Prescott, I'd feel like I don't know what's going to happen this year. I mean, so he is a quarterback that needs to be signed, and it needs to be done as soon as possible. I wonder, well, like I said, if athletes first, I've got these 2 deals done and they're now going to go and go, well, we've got these guys this amount of money, this is what we want Dak to get. But the moving variables are the fact that how many other teams out there have got 3 of their best players leaving contracts at the exact same time. Is one of them going to have to go? Is going to be the big question. And if it is, I think it might be CD Lamb. If the Cowboys are going to pay Dak, they're going to pay Micah Parsons, I think CD Lamb might be the one that has to make way.
Ooh, interested to see. Then that opens up where does he go? What do they trade for? What do they need? Right, no doubt we'll have plenty to discuss over the course of the season. This has been the first reaction crew to some of the big news that's been going on. We'll probably have more of these as the season goes on. Half an hour podcast was never going to happen, was it, guys? We just don't do it.
Oh, that quick about the quarterback deals, and here we are, and an hour in. Standard life.
Absolutely. Right, thank you very much for listening, for watching. Please make sure you subscribe, you tell your pals, your family, everyone that you know about the Gridiron Crew. You can find us all over social media. We're going to be getting bigger and better as the season goes on. We are thoroughly looking forward to the Hall of Fame game, which will be next week, really starting to kick off the 2024-2025 season. Can't wait to get tore into it. We will be giving you an update on what we're going to be covering over the season before we get into our divisional previews the following week. We'll stay tuned for them. Magic. Dan, thank you very much for joining us, bud.
Not been great way to spend a Saturday night talking about how my might not be my quarterback.
Stu, thank you again for joining us over there in Canada.
Yeah, no, I had a great time. I was really enjoying the fact that we've went about 30 expected minutes above points made. Like, that on the fly, that joke never really hit, but yeah, there you go. My joke rating is 30 or so.
Very much so.
But yeah, no, thank you.
Magic. We will be back next week unless there's more breaking news. So make sure you stay tuned. Thanks very much for listening, for watching, and make sure you get involved with the crew. Speak to you soon.